Swear I won't forget this. Why do I regret this? In my mind reckless, thoughts are feeling endless.
Divorce is hard, y'all. You don't go into a marriage thinking it's gonna crash and burn. And let me let you in on a secret, even the biggest train wrecks believe in their heart of hearts that maybe forever does exist. If you've ever been through it, hear me now. On the other side, what emerges is a version of you you have only ever dreamed of. There's a freedom in divorce. Don't get me wrong, I still believe in happily ever after, but attached to the wrong person, happily ever after feels a lot like prison. Walking on eggshells, holding your breath, cutting off people just to survive. It's like searching shards of glass for a sliver of familiarity, only to realize the reflection staring back at you is vacant and doesn't even resemble you. Divorce is lonely, and it's a reality. It makes you face yourself, and it forces you to do better for you, because no one's coming to save you. Divorce teaches you that broken is beautiful. Thank you for joining me. My name is Paulina Brutska. You are watching, and that's okay. I am joined by Yvette Torres. Yvette and I share a birthday, so I think we have this mental telepathy that we have going on. And Yvette, you were one of the people that I met in Louisiana that made such an impact on my life that we have continued and stayed friends all these years after I've left. We both shared a very similar experience. We were both in an abusive relationship. Yours many years prior to mine. And you were actually the first person, one of two people that I contacted when I was in the hospital, when I was carted away, when my nose was broken in my relationship. I reached out to you and you were a great friend of mine. And you had a great insight to tell me, but I didn't listen. I didn't, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. I stayed, I got married, and then, kind of here we are and now going through a divorce. But part of the reason why I asked you to talk to me is not only because we've kind of shared a similar experience, but also because we're not always good friends. And I think that's the beauty of it, that, we fell off for about a good year and a half, 2 years, I want to say even.
Yeah.
Because of that, what was that, I guess going directly to that moment, what was that crossroads for you as to why you said, I have to step away from this friendship?
The relationship that you're in, that you were in at the time, I loved you both very much. And to hear what was going on, because I didn't know what was going on, was just shocking, honestly, because I didn't expect that at all. You allude to, I didn't listen, I remember that feeling. I remember that feeling when people were telling me, Yvette, run as fast as you can and don't look back. And what I did, Paulina, I don't even think you know this part. I did the same thing. I got married. I ran away and got married. I went to Vegas and got married. Didn't tell a soul. My family knew, but that was it. I didn't tell anybody here in Louisiana that knew me, that knew the relationship, that knew the red flags, that knew everything about this other person. I did not tell anybody. And I remember when I came back and told them, oh, surprise, I got married. Be happy for me. They were not. They were not happy. They were not at all. They were like, why did you hide it? There's a reason why you hid it. And I never really even looked at that. I thought they were crazy. How dare they not be happy for me? And so when you told me what happened and I saw that you got married, I was like, I gotta back away from this. I gotta back away from this because I know me well, being in it and now being out of it, that I would not have been the friend that you needed. I would have been the friend that would have told you all the ugly things about the relationship. And that's not what you needed to hear from me. You needed love and support. And that wasn't the friend that I would have been for you. I know our personalities, like you said, we both have the same birthdays. so we
Slightly stubborn.
Yeah.
To say say the least.
Yeah. Our little fierce little
Oh,
way of being would not have been ended well. And I did not want that. I did not want that because I genuinely love you and respect you so much. And I did not want that for us, to be in that situation. So
one of the things that you had talked to me about later when we reconnected was that, you kind of use this word trigger. And I think for many people out there who will be listening to this, triggers look different for everybody, right? When I personally walked away from my marriage, I noticed all these things that normally I'm like, oh, they just kind of roll off my back. And all of a sudden, they were these big things in my life that no longer could roll off my back. Just putting the coffee down the wrong way, or saying okay the wrong way, right? Or it's something so minute, but to you, because you've been in that situation, it triggers something else. When we had that conversation, you said it was triggering to you when I had stayed. Talk to me a little bit about that, and kind of where you were, I guess, in your relationship, and not even talking about the friendship part of us, but just like where you were in your life at that moment that brought you back, that triggered something from my relationship in your life.
The trigger for me was the fact that you were still in the relationship. And I knew, and the stories that we shared, or that you would share with me, of the going ons, was that, like you said, just the controlling of it. And for me, I was out of that relationship. Gosh, by then I was divorced. I had no contact with the other person. It was probably about a year and a half, probably 2 years fresh of basically cutting all ties with this person, because even after we were divorced, he still was trying to control me and my child, who was like in his late teens at the time. At that time, I had my 18-year-old tell me, "Mom, are you done? Like, are you done? Like, you have got to be completely done with this, because if not, you will lose me." And for me, that obviously, I mean, my son is like the apple of my eye, and to even lose that relationship because of a toxic relationship that, for whatever reason, even though we were divorced, and I was still allowing, that's the key word, allowing him to control me and my household. And he had nothing to do with me. He wasn't supporting me. He wasn't doing anything, but yet I allowed him to come into my home and control situations. And he had actually tried to control my son, who isn't even his biological son. He had did some crazy things financially to my son, and which really affected him greatly. And that is when basically my son kind of gave every materialistic thing that he would kind of hold a carrot over our heads with, materialistic and financially, and basically said, "Mom, are you done? Like, this is it. This is the final straw. Like, we cannot allow him to step into our home, tell us what we need to do, tell us how to handle it. Like, I'm done. I'm giving everything back, and he can have it all." And at that moment really was the awakening for me, where basically I was like, "You're absolutely correct." And it wasn't until his wisdom basically allowed me to cut the tie.
I love that it was your very young son who stepped in and said, "Mom, if you won't take this step, I will take the step for you."
Correct.
But going past that, I think, it's so easy to be on the sidelines and kind of look in and say, "Oh, you should do this. You should do that. You've done it. I've done it. The next person's done it." And I'm sure anybody listening at home has done the same thing, right? You've seen your parents, your child, your friend, your brother, your sister, whoever, anybody you have a relationship with, going through something. You're like, "I don't agree with that." But you have to let them make those mistakes, right? And so your son here was saying, "Mom, I love you. You're making a mistake, but you're going to have to," he was essentially doing what you did to me, right? He said, "I'm giving you an ultimatum."
For whatever reasons, that I thought I had to have him in my life for what, I still can't even give a clear example on, because I thought I needed his manly advice, I don't know, for the house that I have. But in the long run, I was the one that was keeping the household afloat, financially stable. Like, I was doing everything anyway.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I got out of that situation and looked back and was like, Yvette, you're doing it anyway. What do you need? What approval do you need? And it all goes down to the approval. I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be approved of. And bottom line, I wanted to be loved.
Yeah.
Right. And so finally, I had to realize I have so many people that love me, who were cheering me on the sidelines, who wanted me to break away. And when I finally did, oh my gosh, I mean, the world was my oyster, I mean, just because I didn't have to feel like I had to go get permission, all the things that insecurities get a hold of.
I know when I left, we reconnected again, and we had, my gosh, what was it, like a 4.5, 5-hour conversation on the phone? I mean, it was extensive. We really, we made up for lost time. That's for sure. But I know that one of the things that you had said to me that really resonated with me was that you yourself, when you were in this situation, your son came to you, gave you an ultimatum, and you almost lost your son in this process.
Right.
You also lost friends in the process of this. And, you kind of said before, you had family members who did not approve, and whether they approved or not, I'm sure that they stayed in your life.
Right.
But you had other friends who did fall off and said, Yvette, you're kind of on your own on this. Do you?
Yeah. Yes.
Talk to me about kind of cultivating those relationships back, or if you ever regain those relationships back.
In the 12-step program, they have the amends process, and so I had to go back to those relationships that I missed, that if I looked back and realized they were telling me all the things all along, they were telling me the truth from day one. And I just refused, denied, put my head down, didn't want to, head in the sand, just didn't want to see any of it, even though I knew that they were right. I just had to go back and apologize for my inconsistencies, for my denial, for all of those things that I just didn't want to see. And not necessarily tell them that they were right, even though they were. I mean, that was just kind of going unsaid, I guess, and just apologize for my part in it. And some of those relationships rekindled, great, fine, back to normal, we never missed a beat. And some just haven't. And what I had to take from those was that really wasn't about me. I went ahead and I apologized for my part in it. I didn't have to make myself wrong for it. Oh, they don't want to be my friend, or they don't want to be a part of my life because they just weren't willing to accept my explanation for doing what I did. And I had to realize that wasn't about me. But for the most part, 95% of them have been rekindled, and we're great, and we're fine, and kind of like you and I, nothing has missed a beat. It's just, we check in on each other, we spend time together, and it's fine.
I remember specifically when, my relationship was over. I remember sitting in Kentucky, and I had just done a bourbon night with a friend of mine. She was great in talking to me, and I'd say I lost all these friendships. The reaching out to you and a few of my friends afterwards, you kind of like a dog with your head tucked in and your tail tucked in under you, right? You're like, I mean, I guess you were right. Yeah, you were really right. I really fucked up here.
Yeah.
And it's shitty. It's a shitty situation to be in. Whether it's an abusive relationship like the ones that we were in, where it warps you. You're in this world that you don't really know how to get out of. You don't know how you got there too, really, to be honest. What was it like for you, kind of, going back into those moments?
I was raw.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the best way I can put it. Um, Cried all the time. I mean, I am a fairly emotional person. My son always tells me, if you're happy, can you please tell your face you're happy? You know, because I just I just wear it all on my face, you know.
You got a
So
resting bee face. You're
yeah,
fine.
exactly. Out of the remorseful feeling, and you said it correctly, like I giggled when you said this. Like, I don't even know how I ended up in that relationship, because prior to that relationship, I was like so secure in myself.
Mhm.
I was independent. I had previously been divorced when I met this person. Um, and I felt so free. I felt so free, so independent, so secure. I can conquer the world, you know, like, I mean, it was everything. And then I meet him, you know, and it was all sunshine and roses in the
Yeah.
beginning. Everything was, you know, like I said, the world was at our feet and we could do anything together. You know, we were a team. We got it all done together. And then, you know, you just start seeing all these red flags and you're thinking, oh no, that can't be it. That just can't be it, you know. And you have people, like you said, just telling you, Yvette, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You know, and I'm like, oh no, you just don't know him. You
That
just
famous
don't
line.
you just don't know the person that I know, you know. And it's just all of that. Like, I just get chills telling you that,
Mhm.
you know. Like, you just don't know the person that I know. You don't know our private conversations. You don't know his heart. You don't know all the things. And I remember some of my closest friends saying, no, we do know.
Yeah.
And, you know, anyways, so going back to all of them, and just, I you ask if I can go back there. Sometimes I can. In certain conversations, I can go back to that moment, especially if I hear, like when I heard you calling me, telling me, Yvette, like, I have a broken nose. Like, my heart, oh, like I can go back to that moment right now.
Mm.
Like, that heart, like, I just, no. Like, Paulina, run now. Because it brought me back to when I had my head cracked open with a paint can, you know, and blood literally dripping from my head, and still wanting to go back. Like, why would I want my head cracked open and want to go back? For what? Being choked, and my son seeing me being choked. What kind of memory is he gonna have of that? You know, seeing him in the last relationship, and okay, this is a trigger right here for me.
Ooh.
Seeing a relationship that he was in, and him screaming at her because she wasn't doing what he wanted her to do, and me running into that room being like, no sir, we are not doing this. I am sorry that I showed you that's what relationship looked like, but that is not how it's done, son. You know, it was just so much that I had to heal from, so that he can be healed as well. My counselors, I love them so, they said, as healthy mama, healthy baby. So as when I got healed, he also got healed. And now he is so full of wisdom. He coaches me, you know.
He is. And I know you both have done a lot of work. And I love hearing just the progress that you both have made, and just knowing how much he has grown too. Going back to that night, I was in a room with somebody I thought I loved, somebody that was a stranger, and somebody that at that moment, I don't know if I was afraid of them or if I've lost my goddamn mind, honestly. Like, and you're sitting there in shock. And I had a couple of things going on, right? I had just moved to Kentucky. I wasn't really speaking to my mom after coming out to her. And I didn't have friends yet. I didn't have a support system. I didn't know anybody there. It's the dead of winter. I've been there for 3 months at tops, I think. Um, and what do you do? What do you do in that moment? Right. And so I reached out to the people that I knew, that like yourself and one other friend, and both of you actually. I lost in the process of this, really, and reconnected with both of you since. I got the message from you, and you were just, you kind of very raw, and you were very honest. And again, like you said, I didn't appreciate that honesty at the time. Um, you said, I love you and I am here for you, but I can't be a part of this. I'm sure you had your own moment when you had confided in your friends who did the same thing to you at that point.
I just had one friend in particular. I can picture her right now, just sitting there telling me at lunch, or dinner, one of the two, and just telling me basically, Yvette, same thing. I love you. I cherish our friendship, but for us to have a healthy friendship, I cannot be your friend right now. Mm-hmm. Because no matter what I say, you're going to find just like I said, oh, but you don't know him. Oh, but you don't know the conversations we've had. You're going to find every excuse, and you're going to validate him no matter what I say. And she said, I'm just afraid, again, that I'm going to read about you in the local 6 o'clock news saying that they found a body somewhere because from domestic abuse. Another statistic.
I don't know about you, but I know I was more mad at you in that moment than I was at the person who was abusing me. So I don't know, is that normal?
Yes.
Kind of thing, like, did you have that same reaction?
Yeah,
as I'm hearing this, and as we're like hashing this out and talking about this, the thing that comes to my mind was this anger that I had, and it wasn't at the person that was hurting me.
Absolutely.
It was at the person that was trying to love me. And that's a common theme in all the friendships that I did lose.
No, absolutely. Every person that judged my husband at the time, every person that would think he was out of line, ridiculous, I have like a plethora of things, right? I thought they were the ones that were nuts. Yeah. I thought they were the ones that were like being rude and considerate, all the things, were being assholes, that they didn't know him, and I hated him because I hated them because they had no idea. But the truth is that they knew exactly who he was, what he was doing to me, that he was being a narcissist. Like, I didn't know what that word meant until I was in the relationship and I was married, and I was basically surviving because I had all these other stories in my head where I didn't want another failed marriage. Shit, Yvette, that's 2 marriages, that you have check on your name now. I didn't want to be one of those women that were married multiple times, and I, in my head, had to make this work. Come hell or high water, I needed to make this work because, God forbid, I was gonna look bad. I may be dead, but I was gonna look bad.
I understand that. I understand that more than I think I want to admit. I understand. That's an ego.
Oh,
that's an ego. That it is. And I'm going to say, because I have my own ego, which I didn't think I had until I stayed in a relationship that was this toxic. And then I was like, no, I'm married. I committed. I put that ring on my finger. I'm going to be right about this. We're going to do the kids. We're going to do the house. I'm going to be in this and I'm going to be in that. And well, none of those things happened. Luckily, thank goodness, right?
Thank you, Jesus. Same for me. My child is from my first marriage, and thank you, Lord, because we were going to fertility doctors in my second marriage to have children, and because we just couldn't have children. thank you, Lord, for protecting me and that child, because I don't know what my life would have looked like with a child with this person.
Mhm.
It would have been horrible. It would have been horrible. Poor child.
It's one of those things that you don't know until you know.
Right. When they say, thank you, Lord, for unanswered prayers, this is one of them. This is definitely one of them, because I can't even imagine having a child with this person.
In the last week, I want to say I had a friend who I reconnected again with. She was in this relationship that when she started telling me certain things in my head, I had red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, like
Right.
everywhere, like, you're just like spazzing out. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I'm saying to her, I was like, friend, you have to maybe take a step back. I said, and don't listen to me, but I'm telling you that it sounds to me like a recap of my relationship.
Right.
And she kind of took a step back from me. And I knew that she did, and no hard feelings there. And she recently called me she messaged me on Instagram. It was like, you were right. Everything. And lucky for her, it was very short, quick, and over with, but it still left enough damage. It's one of those moments where once you snap out of it, right? Like once you've left, once you've had that moment of clarity, you've had that moment of separation. Talk to me about that moment, because I think there's a lot of emotions that go into that. But there is that moment of clarity of, my God, what did I just go through? And how did I just end up losing everybody? And I'm here by myself.
So this person was in and out of my life for like 5 years, in our lives, my son and I. And during those 5 years, what I didn't realize, because of his words, was that I was getting stronger. So when I finally said enough, I had probably 1 or 2 people that I kept really close to me, but it wasn't my old crew. My old people. I had probably 1 or 2 people that were really close to me that really stood by me and just were my cheerleaders, as far as like, you can do this, you got this, like, this is not the end of the world, like, you can handle it, we'll handle it together. And they're still a part of my lives. But once I started realizing, oh God, what about this person? What about that person? What about this old relationship? What about not intimate relationship, but like friendships?
Right.
That's when I really had to stretch out and make amends with all of them, and just kind of apologize for, what I didn't see. What I didn't see, and realize you were right. You were absolutely right about every single thing, everything. So that feeling was again emotional, and just really digging up some really roots of, as you said perfectly, ego and pride, and just all of those things where I thought I knew better, or that I had it under control. I don't have shit under control. That's the truth.
You were in a good place though, and I think I've been meaning to circle back to that moment because it resonated with me once again, as many things do when you speak, because you yourself knew where I was in the place when I met this person.
Right.
And I had gone from a very broken place and trying to heal from my dad's suicide, which I hadn't, fully even grasped or tried to deal with for 5 years until I actually moved to Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I think that I was in a very good spot.
Join me every Thursday morning.
I had my own segment, there's commercials with me. I was doing great. I felt great. I was in good shape. My hair was wonderful. Like, I felt like the shit. Okay. I can't remember the last time I felt like the shit, but I felt like the shit then. And then I met someone and I thought that they were just going to like elevate that, that, oh, I feel like the shit moment. And really I felt like shit with this person.
Yeah.
And I don't think I realized that until much later, and it kind of, again, it goes back to what you were saying, like you were at the height or at the good spot in your life before everything kind of hit the fan.
What I didn't realize was that, I remember when I met this person, how he was like, oh my God, I love you. You're so independent. You say what you want, blah, blah, blah. You speak your mind. And I did. I did all of that, right? And then little by little, I lost my voice. I lost my independence. I'd ask him permission to do anything. I was laughing at myself because I have this old hair dryer. So, talking about triggers, right? And not that my hair dryer is a trigger, but I have this old hair dryer that finally went out on me this week, actually. And I remember looking at it and just throwing it away. It was, because I remember asking permission to buy a hair dryer.
Right.
A $20 hair dryer. And I remember the conversation, like I just had like all of that like flashback, and I was working full time. I was probably the only one working full time, right?
Where do I know that from?
Right?
Where do I know that from?
Right? I was the only one working full time. I was the breadwinner, and
you're still asking for permission.
I was asking
to use your own money.
To use my own money. Yeah, like that's how crazy it got.
Not only did we share very similar stories when it comes to just abuse and the mentality that kind of goes with it, in it, out of it, just our bond over how you and I both lost friends. I'm calling this episode, I was a bad friend, and that's okay. And I think that will resonate with so many people out there who are in either our situation, a similar situation, a different situation, and sometimes they are the friend that has to step back, or they are the bad friend that is in a situation that they shouldn't be in.
So many things came up for me right now when you said that. What I want to be real clear about is that you were not a bad friend. I don't think any of us were bad friends. What I would like to say to that is that just love the person that you're in a relationship with and that friendship with. Love them where they are. Like I never stopped loving you, Paulina. Like I want to make that really clear. I never stopped loving you. I prayed a lot for you. I prayed that God would like show you the light, the truth.
The light did come.
Yeah.
Very jarringly, but it came.
And just to love them for where they are, even if you have to separate yourself for a moment. But always be truthful. Always be truthful, because it was painful for me to tell you what I told you. I didn't want to tell you that. I didn't want to tell you that, hey, I need to step back. But that didn't stop me from loving you at all. I thought about you consistently. Every time I saw you post, I thought about you. But I would just say, be honest, be truthful, love them. One thing that I wish I would have done more of with you is just to check on you, maybe not daily, weekly, but just check on you. So I am sorry for not doing that for you, but just check in, hear them out, love them for where they are, but just to always be truthful about what you see, and just love them for where they are, period. Because that is truthfully what we both lacked in those relationships, was to be loved.
Yeah.
Because we weren't, even though we were told we were loved by the abuser, we weren't being loved on,
Absolutely.
So, because one thing that I learned from this relationship was that I did not realize that I was lovable, because I was told that I was unlovable. And so when I was asked that question by my counselor, do you believe you're lovable? It broke me because I didn't believe that. So just love them.
Yeah. Ultimately, what we want in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or an actual relationship, you want that love, right? That's
Right.
You want the love of your parent, the love of your sibling, the love of your life, your friends, everybody around. We could all use a little bit more love.
That's right. That's
We
right.
could all use a little bit more love. I think the word that comes to me is a little bit more grace too.
Yes.
Love and grace in this
Yeah.
situation specifically, because as we are talking, I'm reminded of a time when I stepped in for a friend of mine who was in a relationship many, many years ago, abusive relationship. And she did what I did with you. I stopped talking to you. You stopped talking to me. We stopped talking. And it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle, which is why I know that this doesn't just happen to me. It doesn't just happen to you. It happens to so many people. And the more we talk about it, and I think the more that we give ourselves grace to say, hey, reach out to that person, right? I didn't reach out to that friend after that. You didn't reach out to me very often. I've watched her post. You've watched my post. I've watched your post. And I think it's a cycle. We all go through that. Love and grace. And I think that's really how we help and support the people that are in these situations, because they're in them for a reason, and they're also in them. And mentally, I don't think that they're there either.
Right. No. Absolutely. 100% correct. They're not. They're like I said earlier, you're in it for so many reasons, so many stories that you tell yourself out of your own history, you know. There's so much that can be said with that, you just tell yourself a story and believe that it's true.
Mhm.
And without getting too preachy, I mean, really, God created all of us to be loved, period. So do that.
The wise words of Yvette Torres.
That's right. That's right.
I love it. Yvette, it was so great chatting with you. It was so great seeing you once again. I haven't seen you in person 3 years?
At least minimum.
4 years. I'm glad that we reconnected. I'm glad that you're doing this podcast with me, this video blog with me. I'm sure that you have dropped so many truth bombs on us, so many words of wisdom that will resonate with people. I know that, so often when we'd speak, it was the simplest thing that you'd say. Sometimes that would touch me and I'm like, oh, okay. Later down the line, or if it didn't sit there with me at the moment, it always came back at some point or one point or another. So I hope that this does the same for somebody out there who's listening. And thank you again.